Graded on the accuracy of your picture. Why are you being graded or given partial credit? Because if you draw a correct picture, you'll get the math. Now in these problems, basically the whole semester we are focusing on right triangle. So you can just draw a right triangle and then you can just fill it in. So there is my right triangle. The length of the shadow of a building. So here's my building. How tall is the building, class? It's kind of weird. Their grammar is a little bit weird. But the length of the shadow of a building, the building is 34.09 meters tall. I know that sounds weird, but I just find these problems and I do them. And then I noticed something. I think they're called prepositions in English, where you can actually delete the preposition. The length of the shadow is 37.62 meters. So it's kind of like, it would have been better if they put a comma where my fingers are, wasn't it? Now you say, where's the shadow? Well, you need to place the sun. Find the angle of elevation of the sun. So in these problems, you can extend this line. And the sun is actually where this line is. And if you've taken an art class, that's where shadows are. If this is the light source, right? Can you see that? Like, is there a shadow back there? This is the sun, my camera, and it's shining down on my hand. That's the light source, and that's where you can see the shadow on the back. So if this is your light source, it's hitting the building. This right here is the shadow. The length of the shadow of a building is 37.62 meters. Find the angle of elevation of the sun. Well, angle of elevation means you have to be looking up. Well, where are you looking from? Everyone say, stick figure. It's always nice to draw a stick figure somewhere in the picture to kind of give you, they call it a reference point. Where are you starting at? So if I'm looking here, I'm looking at the base of the building, and then I want to elevate my eyes to the sun, the angle of elevation of the sun. I'm looking up. This is my angle. That's where I would put X. Okay? And then from here, you can just solve using trig. Let's do that together. Class, if I start here, because this is the angle, you always start there. Class, what sides do we have? So that's the opposite. How about this one? This is the across the right angle is always the hypotenuse. And then the third missing side is called the adjacent. Class, there's a phrase. What's our phrase? SOHCAHTOA. In class, which one am I going to cross off and why? I don't have anything here at the hypotenuse. There is no given information. There is no variable. So I would cross off the hypotenuse. There's an H here. Cross it off. Cross it off. We're using which one, class? Tangent. I'm using tangent because I have the opposite over the adjacent. That's what the T stands for. Let's go ahead and write an equation. Now let's just say you haven't gotten this. It's a trig function. Let's write that. Trig. And then in here you're going to put an angle is equal to, in this box, you're going to have sides. So let me show you how this works. Which trig function are we using? Tangent. And what's the angle? That is in yellow. That is our x. Well, which two sides are tangent? They're what? Opposite over the adjacent. So what does the opposite side say? 34.09 over, what's our adjacent side? 37.62. Partner A, tell partner B, are we going to cross multiply or are we going to take the inverse? Ready, set, go. Tell them why. Raise your hand, inverse. Raise your hand, cross multiply. Class, we cross multiply to solve for sides. We take the inverse to solve for angles. So you can take this. X is an angle, so I'm going to have to take the inverse. To show the inverse, you should have this -1. So I have the inverse of tangent of 34.09 over 37.62 equals X. Here is my calculator ready equation. So I'm giving you partial credit for an accurate picture. I'm giving you partial credit for picking the correct trig function. I'm giving you partial credit for having a calculator ready equation. Now here it has decimals rounded to the nearest what? Hundredths, so my answer should be to the hundredths, even though it doesn't tell me. So there's always hints in math. And that's why we're better than English. So I'm going to take the inverse of tangent. Make sure yours has the -1 like ours. And then I'm just going to type in 34.09 divided by 37.62. Class, rounded to the nearest hundredth. Our answer is what? 42.18 degrees. Remember, X represents an angle. I'm assuming that this is in degrees. It didn't tell us, but we'll just leave it as degrees. So in this problem, hopefully you recognize that our hints are the angle of elevation, you're looking up, and the sun helps you cast a shadow.